Coming in. My name is Alex Brower. I am the executive director here at the Wisconsin Alliance. I think most of you know me because I've been bugging you about coming out to this for weeks, and just going to take care of one technical thing here. And I'm just going to make one of our other staff here co-host. All righty, cool. So, yeah, so we'll get started here. Thank you all for coming in. This is the Save Social Security online forum. I'm really, really proud of this event. We've got a lot of people here today. That's really, really good. Looks like we have 41 folks here present today. We'll get a chance for our other people in the panel to introduce themselves in a second, but this event is being hosted by our friends, the Wisconsin Alliance for Retired Americans. I'm the executive director. Ross will be introducing himself as the president here in a second, and we've got our folks over at American Federation of Government Employees, Local 220. Jessica Lapointe is here, as well as Alex Lawson from Social Security Works is joining us as well. So without further ado, we'll give a chance for a few minutes for everybody here to introduce themselves. I'll be kind of running the emceeing here today, but we'll start with Jessica from AFGE, Local 220. Jessica, please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Alex, and welcome everybody to this conversation today. My name is Jessica Lapointe. I am the American Federation of Government Employees, Council 220 president. Council 220 represents 30,000 employees in Social Security field offices, teleservice centers, and workload support units nationwide. And so when you go into your local Social Security field office, you're going to be meted and greeted by a wonderful Social Security employee. We are the union that represents them in personnel matters. And I am also the general committee spokesperson. The general committee of AFGE is the umbrella body of Social Security that represents all 42,000 Social Security employees nationwide and 6 components of Social Security at payment centers, the Data of Operations Center, the Office of Quality Review, headquarters, Office of Hearing Operations, and then field offices. So we essentially just represent all of the bargaining unit employees that are working hard every day to administer your Social Security benefits timely and accurately. So I will go ahead and pass it back to you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you so much. Next up for an introduction is Alex Lawson from Social Security Works. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks to everybody who's joining. It's a real honor to be here speaking with you all. My name is Alex Lawson. I'm the Executive Director of Social Security Works. We fight to protect and expand Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and to lower prescription drug prices. Our vision of what we're doing is driven by the original intent of the Social Security Act, which was a vision of economic security, an ever-expanding system of economic security for everyone in this country. Can't solve everything, but can make things better, hazards and vicissitudes, as FDR said. But he also said Social Security Act is a cornerstone that we're going to build on. And I'm really happy to talk about how part of that is the need for the administration of Social Security and getting benefits to people, field offices, and everything else that we're going to talk about today is part of this system. It's our system. It's our Social Security system. So I'm really happy to be here today and be able to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. We'll do this here. I'll pass it over to Ross Winkelbauer, who will introduce himself and talk about the Wisconsin Alliance, and then I'll provide a little introduction to the Alliance for Retired Americans generally. I have a video we'd like to share. After that, we have some pre-prepared questions that some of our panelists will be asking of each other. And then if we have time, we'll be opening up the floor for questions from the audience as well. We do want to keep this to an hour, so we're respectful of everybody's time. But Ross, I'll give you a few minutes to introduce yourself. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Alex. Good morning, everybody. I'm Ross Winkelbauer, and I'm the president of the Wisconsin Alliance for Retired Americans. What we do at the Alliance is we advocate for both retirees and working people with regards to Social Security and Medicare. Myself and Alex and some of our other members. We meet with legislators, both Republican and Democrat, to talk about the issues that concern retirees and active people. Obviously, Social Security and Medicare are the big things. When Alex and I have been going around and meeting with congressional people and senators, the funny part is when we meet with, well, I'll be honest, Republicans, they keep telling us that they're not going to come after our Social Security, the ones that are already on it. They play that little word game. If you're already receiving Social Security, we're not going to touch you. So that makes it sound good. But we got to make sure it's protected for the people that are behind us, whether it's our kids or our grandkids. Social Security is something that we worked for, we earned, we paid into it, and we need to have that because so many of us are dependent on that as our income after we have retired. So anyway, again, thank you for everybody for coming. Hopefully get something out of this today. And I know we got some great speakers, so I'll turn it back over to Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ross. I'd like to share with everybody a video that that the Alliance for Retired Americans, our national organization, has put out regarding Social Security, just to kind of kick off the conversation here, and then we'll move on to some pre-prepared questions here. And let me make sure that I don't mess this up here. Technology is great when it works. Here we go. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, looks like we're working here. Let me start the video here.
Sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Why would you propose something like that?
Things like Social Security and Medicare, you just get it no matter what the cost. You got to turn everything into discretionary spending.
The adjusted age of retirement reduced benefits so that you can get only 77% of the benefits you owed.
It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it. Here, here.
What are these politicians thinking? Social Security is a solemn promise between us and the government. We earned our guaranteed benefits and have paid for them from our very first jobs until retirement. And unlike so much in life, we can actually count on Social Security. It's never missed a payment, not even during war or recessions. But once again, some politicians are proposing drastic cuts and changes to Social Security. And that's the last thing we need. We've got to fight back. So here are the facts about Social Security. Today, 1 out of 5 Americans benefit from Social Security. They are our family and friends, retirees, surviving spouses and children, and disabled Americans. Americans pay for Social Security. Workers and employers contribute to the system with every paycheck. Unlike the stock market, which goes up and down, Social Security benefits are guaranteed for the rest of your life. And despite what you may hear, Social Security does not and cannot by law add to the national debt. In fact, Social Security is funded for the next decade. So don't be fooled by any politician who says Social Security benefits are too generous, who wants to raise the retirement age, or who would let Wall Street gamble with our retirement. We can make simple fixes so Social Security is stronger and even more secure. Like if the richest people in our country paid their fair share, we can increase benefits and make sure Social Security is there for our children and grandchildren. Right now, people who earn over $1 million a year stop paying into Social Security in February each year. Someone who makes over $1 billion stops paying into Social Security on January 1st. You heard that right. Nearly everybody else pays into Social Security all year long. It's time to demand that the wealthiest Americans do the same. At the Alliance for Retired Americans, we're fighting to protect Social Security and the benefits you have earned. It won't be easy, but if we work together, we can ensure that Social Security's guaranteed benefits are there for generations to come. Please join us. Find out how you can help at retiredamericans.org.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not.
Very effective.
And of course, the ads came in there. Thank you so much, whoever said that. Yeah, for those of us who are just joining, we me just make sure I have my sound off there. Yeah, for those of us that are just joining, we've just gotten in to introductions. I was able to introduce that video from the Alliance for Retired Americans, and here locally in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Alliance for Retired Americans, we're fighting for some of the same things that are in that video. And more too. We work very closely with organized labor to not just fight for retirees and their benefits, but also to work with organized labor as they organize workers and to fight for union endorsed candidates as well. Let's see here. We'll get into some of the meat about what our organizations are fighting for and what the exact threats are. Alex L., I believe you had some questions that you wanted to ask of AFGE. So do you have those ready? Should I pull those up?
Yep, I got
Okay, why
them.
don't we, yeah, let's go over to you then.
Thanks, Alex. Fantastic video. That's a really great video. So kudos to ARA. No surprise, because, you know, we've been in this fight for a long while. ARA, Wisconsin ARA, Social Security Works, and obviously AFGE Council 220 and AFGE. Jessica, your leadership is obvious on this. And that's what I want to, the first question is actually about leadership. There is something that I think this is, for a brief moment, right when I started, there was a confirmed commissioner, but then there's this enormous time where we just haven't had a commissioner, a confirmed commissioner, who was not there specifically to dismantle the program, which is the last one, Andrew Saul. We haven't had I might get it wrong, but we haven't had a Democratic nominated confirmed commissioner in like a quarter century, somewhere like that. But now we do. Martin O'Malley was just confirmed. He is the commissioner of the Social Security Administration. This is a cabinet level position. Obviously, there's an enormous amount that comes under his authority as a confirmed commissioner compared to what we've been having with an acting commissioner. Can you sort of dig into that a little bit? Because, you and I work on extremely closely the attacks on the funding of the administration by Congress, but there's also things that a commissioner can do. And I'd love to hear the interplays of those and what you're thinking. And do you have any indication of where Commissioner O'Malley is likely to take things?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Alex. First of all, we endorsed newly confirmed Commissioner O'Malley. AFGE endorsed him, as well as 35 other labor unions and organizations. So he made some pretty firm and strong and encouraging commitments in his confirmation hearing with the Senate that he was going to work with the employees, he was going to listen to the employees, he was going to listen to AFGE as the exclusive representative of the employees and work with us, and committing to meeting with us both in person and virtually early and often to really turn this sinking ship around. And so far, he has really proven to be following through on those commitments. We've seen a few signs of a sea change that's encouraging. First of all, upon getting confirmation and getting into the job, he met with labor leaders to discuss reenacting a new virtual and interactive employee engagement tool that will allow employees to discuss and offer ideas on topics that he believes are the most significant issues facing customer service delays. So these are topics that employees are allowed to weigh in on, such as the national 1-800 customer wait time, delays that we're seeing upwards of 45 minutes to get through to an agent on the phone when you call for the first time. The other topics are the average processing time for the disability determination, which we're seeing is taking now over 7 months. To get an initial disability determination. There's 1 million claims backlogged at our state-run disability determination services. So he wants to hear from the employees doing the work, how we can better facilitate customer service there. And then he wants to talk about engage with the employees on the overpayment and underpayment inequities. that we're hearing a lot about in the news, and that we're hearing a lot about. There was a hearing on the Hill about it, where the acting commissioner at that time testified. So he wants to hear employees' ideas on that as well. So, you know, employees are allowed to share their thoughts and improve customer service in other areas as well through this. It's called Engage SSA. It's an interactive tool. And while, you know, we wholeheartedly at AFGE encourage this type of interaction, because employees more often than not, as evidenced in our FEVS results, they don't feel like their voice matters, that in the workplace they have a lot of ideas and they don't feel like upper management cares to listen and share ideas. So this will be a great tool to do that. The postings are going to be anonymous, so there's a little bit of freedom there to express yourself, you know, within the rules of policy engagement. So, but with that said, AFGE wanted to make sure to stress to the agency and the commissioner that the root cause of all three of these major themes that the commissioner wants feedback on related to customer service delays are a direct result of underfunding. They're a direct result of understaffing, low morale. We're dead last in large federal agencies in terms of morale rankings. So sit on that for a minute. And the subsequent attrition crisis that we are in as it relates to underfunding, understaffing, and low morale. We were at our 25-year lowest levels of staffing at the end of fiscal year 22. So at the end of March, at the end of September of 2023, we're at our lowest staffing levels in 25 years. So, you know, it goes without saying, I think, that employees should not be targeted as to blame for the customer service delays. And we want the agency to understand that these are failures of the powers that be to act and fund the administration properly and give the employees the tools and the resources that they need to do the job. And, you know, this is a trend that's been happening. We're in a different era right now. Since 2011, the baby boomers began retiring at a rate of 10,000 a day. And Congress has failed to meet this public demand by slashing our budgets by at least 17% with inflation over the last decade. Right? So that's not the fault of the Social Security worker. We are working tirelessly to do the good work of the American people and carry out the mission of the of Social Security to deliver benefits timely and accurately to the American people that need them, working families, the most vulnerable members of our population. Day in and day out, we feel that squeeze of the frustrated customer who cannot get benefits timely, who are waiting over 7 months without income to get a disability decision, who are waiting almost an hour to get through to an agent on a failing 1-800 number that has no modern features to even tell them how long that they're waiting. So by the time they get to an agent, they're frustrated, right? And we have a lot of de-escalation that we have to do with customers that contributes to these long call times as well. So this is by no means the fault of the hardworking customer service representative or the claims specialist or the Social Security worker. This is all a result of underfunding, and we need to have a serious conversation today about what it's going to take to fund this agency properly, how we can get there. Enacted leadership is key. Confirmed leadership by the Senate is key. It shows that the US Congress and the president cares enough about FDR's promise and the Social Security program to put a confirmed commissioner in place that has made commitments to turn this sinking ship around and get it afloat again. But without the funding, which is, by the way, Commissioner O'Malley wrote a book on how to get government thriving. He was mayor of the city of Baltimore and then governor of Maryland, and he wrote this book, and he was able to turn those governments around. So we're hoping he can do the same thing for Social Security. He's showing signs that he wants to enact similar statistical analysis within Social Security to prove how to get there. But without the funding, which is his second tenet of leadership, is that you have to infuse the appropriate amount of resources into a government agency to get it operational and running properly. So without that funding, we're going to be in this same position year after year of just barely meeting the public's needs, if at all, moving forward here.
So
does
I'd
that
love
answer your
to,
question?
it does. And I'd love to, it's all in the theme here. But just listening to what you're saying, I'd love to push on a few things. And I know we're in a room full of experts on this, but this is a really important, it's a synthesis of different power centers that's necessary to actually get funding. And so because Congress is just not going to hand over money. And there is this wrong perception on the Hill. And I've been told this. I went to grad school with somebody who's a staffer, and we're talking about appropriations, and they're like, oh yeah, well, if we give money to SSA, they're just going to waste it. And I was like, mind boggled, right? I was like, that is so divorced from the reality of literal life and death decisions that SSA frontline workers are working with the American people on some of their most important life decisions. And you can't find a more dedicated, workforce for doing this and doing it at the highest level. But Congress is just cutting the budget 17%. How are you supposed to deal with a 10,000 baby boomers retiring a day while your budget's being slashed? But in Washington, D.C., if you don't have a voice who's actively making that case in a way that I think a confirmed commissioner can, and especially one who is working with you and with labor and the workers and getting on the same page, and then working with advocates, beneficiaries, and lining everyone up in a concerted push to get more money. And because the answer is also it's bigger than just the yearly appropriations battles, which we obviously need to win as much as possible. But can you speak to where you think Martin O'Malley's vision is on that? That this is an agency, so it's righting a ship, but it's also restoring a legacy of greatness. The bones are strong. He needs to align all of the different stakeholders and get, we've seen that this can happen, with the IRS. We've seen that this can happen with postal service, right? That there are these moments where a moving train in DC parlance is happening. There's money that is possible. And if you have a strong advocate in the right rooms, you can actually turn things around. It sounds like the answer is yes, but Martin O'Malley as a politician, do you think that he understands that in a way that we haven't seen maybe in some previous commissioners?
Yeah, I think his confirmation numbers show that he received bipartisan support in his nomination. He was confirmed by a very wide margin in the Senate based on his track record. And if you go back and listen to a Senate confirmation hearing, I mean, people were singing his praises, and for good reason, because he has been able to turn failing government systems around and is a subject matter expert on it and understands the appropriate use of a data-driven narrative and being transparent with the data with all the stakeholders to show, listen, this is where we were, this is where we're at, and this is where we need to go. So once he has that, he calls it like a winnable game. So once you have that in place, then it's a much easier sell and a much less heavy of a lift to get the right funding in place, to get that agency thriving, because Congress is hesitant to continue to give money to an agency who's failing to meet public demand. Whether right or wrong with that philosophy, I disagree with it. We need the money. We've needed the money for the last decade. We've lost over 10,000 workers in the last decade, while beneficiaries are on the rise in historic numbers. We're in dead last in terms terms of morale. 54% of the workers are making plans to leave the agency within the next year if there isn't a huge change in leadership and the way that management, sort of deals with or manages employees at the local level. And so once we work on this morale piece with the worker by starting to engage with them, listen to them, hear them, and believe them and trust the employee, Social Security is ranked second in public trust, right below the Federal Park Service with federal agencies, and yet we're dead last in morale. So it's not a problem with the worker, it's a problem with the way we're being treated. And we've already seen some shifts in this that's going to improve morale with the workforce. For example, in Detroit, Michigan, there's a water crisis going on, as you know, has been going on for a while in Michigan. And Detroit, the federal building in Detroit had some, it's a sick building. There's Legionella that was found, a bacteria that causes a potentially deadly Legionnaire's disease and pneumonia. That bacteria was found in the water, and on Commissioner, one of his first days in office, he came in and we discussed it, and it turns out that he was able to make the right decision to get that office closed down and get the employees redeployed into other offices and to work from home to continue to serve the American people and to keep the employees and the American people safe. So that the timing of that, how quickly that happened and how we were able to work as a team with union and management, that has not happened in any of my recent memory. It's certainly not with the last couple of leaders at the head of the agency. So that is what improves morale. When the employees are treated like human beings with dignity and respect, when they're heard and listened to, and when their lives are protected, then they feel valued, and then they just want to work. They want to work harder. A happy employee is a productive employee. So that's the first step, is shifting this morale. And that really is an internal leadership job, is to maintain a workforce with good and high morale. And then with this data-driven narrative that he's planning to create with his security stat program that he's going to be implementing, he will be able to deliver real numbers to Congress to prove the funding need. We are able to prove the funding need now, so Congress shouldn't delay in funding SSA. But I think that they can rest assured that Commissioner O'Malley is the person for the job, the right person for the job. And if we get the proper amount of resources, we can have this agency thriving again. I would predict in about 3 years it would take to fully turn this ship around, get this, sinking Titanic afloat. Sorry for the bad reference, but and then we can deal with the solvency crisis that's afoot in the next 10 years, as Alex pointed out in the video. Once you deliver a thriving SSA to the American people and to Congress, doing the solvency fix is going to be a pretty easy job. There's some pretty comprehensive legislation on the floor right now that we can discuss, like Larson's 2100 bill that would fix the solvency issues, or Congress can build a bipartisan work group to work together to scrap the cap and fix the solvency issue. Pretty easy stuff if we have a Congress that can function and work together properly.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you, Alex, for asking those good questions. And again, just really glad everybody's here today. For those that just joined, we please do. I really am appreciating how everybody's been keeping themselves on mute too. We don't want any background noise interfering with this. And so thank you all for being here. I'll ask also for the organizations, and maybe we'll do this at some point before this event ends. Let's make sure that all of our partner organizations that are here get a website in the chat so people can check you all out and potentially support what you're doing. I had a question that as I wanted to ask of Alex Lawson from Social Security Works. And then we have just a couple more questions. And if we have time, we'll open up the floor for questions from the audience. But again, we do want to be respectful of everyone's time here. Alex, let's talk about the history of Social Security. Whose money is it? Where is it coming from? And the crisis, can you kind of describe the crisis and what we can do to fix the crisis going on in Social Security?
Yes. Although what I always say is that there is no Social Security crisis. There's a billionaire crisis, or Social Security works, right? Like there's no problem with Social Security. There's just these billionaires who don't want to pay in at the same rate as the rest of us. And the whole fight is always about that. They're like, we don't want to pay in at the same rate as the vast majority of the American people. So we're going to cut people's Social Security benefits. We're going to reach into their pockets and steal their money, because that's what it is. We should always remember, like everyone knows it, we should always remember to talk about it. Social Security is funded by us. We see it out of our paychecks go in. It is held in trust for us to provide us benefits at the loss of wages. And it's a beautiful program. I'm a wonk and a nerd, so like I sometimes marvel at the beauty of the policy. And the keys are simplicity and universality. And the closer you get to those, the better it works. And what it does is it protects against the loss of wages. It's our money. It's there for if we lose wages when we retire. It's there if we face a life-changing event, become disabled and can no longer work. It's there at the loss of a breadwinner for the surviving children. And it works like clockwork, but it's not clockwork. It's actually Jessica's people. It's the workers are why it works and then looks like clockwork. But that includes our money. The benefits are from our contributions, our FICA contributions, but so is the provision of those benefits. So the entire administration of Social Security happens for less than 1 penny of every dollar in premiums that's paid in. That's why the billionaires hate it, by the way, because they're like, no one's making money off of it. And you're like, exactly. What it does is amazing. For less than 1% administrative costs. But those administrative costs are also paid for out of our contributions. So what's happening right now, and it is, I'd say it's a crisis, but really it's simple. We have a decade to get the ultra wealthy to pay into Social Security at the same rate as the rest of us. And if they do, we have a bill from Senators Sanders and Warren that shows, you just get people paying in. Theirs is over 250,000. So people, I should have done this, but you all are such experts. But you don't pay into Social Security on all of your income. The people only pay in on the first. Now I think it's $168,000 of their income. After that, people pay in on nothing. And this is in the video, so I think it's really clear. But like Elon Musk stopped paying in on January 1st, like minutes into the day, and he's not paying in anymore. The vast majority of the American people pay in all year long on all of their incomes. So it's not a hard problem, right? Like the solution is obvious. The problem is entrenched political power of the billionaires who don't want to pay more in taxes. But as the fight is done in the sunshine, we always win because they've got money, but we've got people, which is why the biggest that we have easy policy to solve the issue. John Larson's 2100 Act, Senators Sanders and Warren's bill, which increases benefits by $200 a month for every single person. But I actually think right now the threat to Social Security, right, is bigger than the push on expansion. We will always be pushing on expansion. We have a decade to work on that, and we will win unless they're able to take it behind closed doors, which is what they're trying to do right now. Speaker Johnson, Republican Speaker Johnson, is pushing to create a Social Security death panel. And I dig into that a little bit more if we want. But the point is that the money is ours, and everybody knows that. And the American people won't let the politicians steal our money at the behest of the billionaire shot callers in the sunlight. So what they try to do is do everything they can to say that they're trying to fix a crisis or a problem with Social Security, and they can only do it in secret. And there, they're going to cut our benefits. They don't do things in secret that are massively popular, like asking billionaires to pay into Social Security at the same rate as all of the rest of us, which everybody supports, Republicans, independents, everybody. We have all the polling to show it. So Alex, it's a little bit meandering of a response, but the short answer is it's our money, and we'll be damned if we're going to let somebody just reach into our pocket and take it.
I had just a quick follow-up question for you that I think I think everybody here would appreciate some nuance on. We're all paying into the Social Security Trust Fund out of our wages, the employer side and the employee side, and it goes into the trust fund. How are they even putting this under the umbrella of a debt commission? Because it's outside of the federal expenditures which create this debt. What are they is this just a Trojan horse, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a secret attack. And then there's procedural ways that they do it called fast track, which is it would take an act of Congress, but what this would do is they'd come to a secret deal and then they'd push it through without committees, without any sort of amendments, without any sunlight, and they would rush an up or down vote, and that's how they can do it. Social Security, as has been noted here, and I will also note, there's a great clip of Ronald Reagan just very clearly saying this, that if you have any contacts who that is a good messenger. I find that it is helpful with some people to hear Ronald Reagan say it so clearly that, if you cut Social Security benefits, that can't go to the deficit because Social Security does not contribute to the deficit. So Alex, the answer is they lie, they hand wave and lie, and then they create procedural gimmicks that will allow them to do deeply unpopular stuff. Unfortunately, I will also just sort of end this answer with the elite media is super complicit in this as well. So you'll see unfortunately, New York Times, Washington Post, you can look at their editorials where they will frame the brave thing is to cut people's Social Security benefits, right? It's to steal from the average $1,700, $1,800 benefits that people are somehow surviving on, that's brave, but asking billionaires who have like bejeweled yachts to just pay the same rate as all of the rest of us have learned to pay, that's not brave. So it is we are up against a lot, but they only win if they can keep the American people from being able to express our opinions, because the American people bipartisanly are clear. They absolutely don't want one penny cut. Way more people believe in the Loch Ness Monster in America than want to see Social Security benefits cut. We've polled it. And in fact, the vast majority of people want to expand benefits.
And that's really good to hear, that the public is in support of the positions that we're talking about here today, and that we can be assured that that's the case. Alex, just let's do this here. We're right on track with time. We may actually have I want to ask for some calls to action and specific campaigns that each organization is working on, but I think we may have time for one question from the audience here before we move into that. So I want to open it up to somebody with a burning question here. If you have a question, could you please put your type question in the stack or raise your hand? Would use the raise the hand function. I'll be able to call on just one person here, depending on how in-depth the question is, I guess, for any of our panelists.
Alex Beatrice has her hand up. She's waving you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, Beatrice, please just unmute yourself and you may ask your question.
Thank you. Do our elected officials who are receiving a payment, a salary through the federal government or state government, are they taxed on that income? At what rate are they taxed on that income?
Jessica or Alex, would you like to field that question? Please go ahead.
And more importantly, are they paying into Social Security?
Alex, do you want to, or do you want me to try? I'm not.
Beatrice, Beatrix, sorry, are you asking if members of Congress and elected officials pay in to Social Security? Yes, they do. And then their income tax is also standard based on their income. There's all sorts of other things they do that they can cheat on, like insider trading is illegal for everybody except members of Congress. So, but yes, their income is normal income, and as such, they contribute to Social Security.
Okay, now, one follow-up, thank you. Since most of them are at least millionaires, and some of them are billionaires, even though they may be required to pay into Social Security, does their financial status as being in that group that are exempt after a short period of time each year from paying in, are they paying into Social Security on a 12-month rotation, just like the rest of us are?
No, that's the problem, Beatrix.
Yeah.
So, I'll drop a link, and it's kind of funny, but I went to a hearing where they're talking about stealing our money. And I disrupted Senator Romney, who's one of the shot callers, ringleaders on this. And this is a guy who I think I can't remember which Republican this was, but he either has an elevator for his cars or he forgot how many houses he has, right? It's one of the two. But either way, he could have done either. He's so rich. And this guy is sitting there telling me, like trying to mock the fact that I'm saying hands off our Social Security benefits. He's trying to portray himself as the brave person, right? I mean, like, that's the upside down world that you're often dealing with in Washington, D.C. is like a centimillionaire talking to a bunch of 100 millionaire talking to a bunch of people worth tens of millions of dollars. And the poorest person in the room making these decisions is often going to be worth far more than any American is likely to ever see. So like, it is the rich generally saying, oh yeah, we don't want to pay more in taxes, so we're going to cut the not rich's benefits. And what that means is just steal our money, right? I mean, we put the money in there and they're taking it out. And I will, something that Ross said that I sort of want to end on, or this part, because it's so important. If you want to know how divorced from reality many politicians and Washington, D.C. is, they literally think that the American people, that seniors, older Americans are fine with cutting their children and their grandchildren's benefits. I've been all over this country. I've never seen a reaction that's different. I've talked to all sorts of people, camo NRA hats, electric vehicles, everywhere in between. And when I say, hey, do you want the government to cut your Social Security benefits? Raise your hand if you want them to. No one raises their hand. And then I'm like, well, what about if you want the government to cut your grandchildren or children's benefits? And guess what? No one raises their hand. In fact, the people who fight the hardest against cuts to Social Security benefits for anyone, current or future, are people who understand the profound power that Social Security represents. So people who are currently receiving Social Security benefits. So like, that's the big problem, Beatrix, is that there is a big difference. They always talk about bipartisan, and I'm like, I am the bipartisan one. I just mean bipartisan outside of Washington, D.C. Everywhere outside of Washington, D.C., people want Social Security expanded, not cut. It's only in Washington, D.C. That, a Democrat standing with all the Republicans who overtly want it would be called brave or bipartisan. Like, that is actually completely divorced from the way things should be, which is following the will of the people. And again, is in conclusion, that's why they always try to move it behind closed doors, because it's so divorced from where people actually are.
So these guys are making their salary, and even if they only stay in office for one day, they're getting all their medical care free for life. They're continuing to get a retirement benefit from their time as elected leader somewhere in our federal government. And they're getting a break on paying into Social Security because, gosh, they're already millionaires.
Yep, and they're passing laws that are limiting access to benefits, right? Appropriations bills or laws. And we just saw in this most recent appropriation process, we're coming up on our second round of a continuing resolution that keeps Social Security administrative costs funded at 2023 levels, which is flat funding, which is a cut based on inflation and based on cost of salaries. And we're going to show here in the call to action what continued flat funding is going to do to the program and your access to your benefits. So we're talking about two things today. We're talking about entitlement and benefits that you get, and it's on average about $1,500 a month for people receiving retirement or disability benefits. But then you can't, there's one thing to be entitled to the benefit, and then there's another thing to have access to the benefit. And right now, the American people don't have access to the benefits based on the underfunding of the administrative costs that keep the program running, that keep the program staffed, that keep the technology updated and modernized. That is what's been cut by 17% with inflation over the last decade, while beneficiaries have increased by over 25%. So you guys aren't getting access to your benefits, and that's only going to get worse if we don't get some comprehensive funding of the administrative costs to meet public demand. So while the American people, by and large, believe that benefits should be expanded, that they don't want benefits cut, that they want the solvency issue to get fixed within the next 10 years, 78% of Americans also believe that SSA deserves more funding of the administrative costs so they can have better, timely, and more accurate access to the benefits. So in our call to action today, with the little bit of time left, we want to go over what that is. We want to go over our comprehensive proposal that we've worked on together here. It's a funding package that would fund SSA's administrative costs over the next 10 years outside of the appropriations process, outside of this gridlock in Washington that you're seeing that's triggering the potential for shutdowns, and that's triggering the potential for flat funding or a decrease in funding, or just, you know, minuscule amounts of funding that's causing hiring freezes and then a decade of attrition and poor service to the American people. What we want to do is have Congress enact an emergency supplemental funding package to Social Security's administrative costs, like you see with the IRS, when the IRS last year got the Inflation Reduction Act that infused about $80 billion into the program. And we truly believe that a supplemental funding package for SSA, again, this is above and beyond anything that you would get in appropriations. We're asking for $20 billion in supplemental funding over the next 10 years that would allow SSA to revitalize beyond this limitation on administrative expenses that they keep doing year after year arbitrarily because we're self-funded. So anyway, and we haven't really gone into the details of how we are limited in our administrative costs and forced to compete with other labor HHS appropriations processes and programs every year, even though we are self-funded through FICA. That is a catastrophe in and of itself, and maybe Alex wants to go into it a little bit. But while that is still a thing that's going on, what we want to see with SSA is that we get the supplemental funding package of $20 billion over the next 10 years that would offset itself, by the way, because we would be able to reduce that $21.6 billion that we're sitting in overpayments, because payments are being paid incorrectly because we do not have enough staff to process workloads timely to prevent overpayments. So this supplemental funding request is something that we urge everybody to contact their lawmaker about. And I'm going to give you a phone number right now, and then at the end of the program. The phone number is 315-817-5437. Again, 315-817-5437. Use that phone number to call your lawmaker. You'll be dispatched to your local House of Representatives person and your local senator, and you will be able to call and urge for the funding of SSA, for fully funding the administrative costs of SSA throughout the appropriations process every year to support a supplemental funding package of $20 billion that would fund the administrative costs properly over the next 10 years. That's just $2 billion a year to get us back up and running, serving the American people again, allowing people to have access to the benefits. And then urge your congressperson to support any bill that resolves the solvency crisis once and for all. And with these 3 steps, appropriating funds annually, allowing for that supplemental funding to revitalize the program, and then passing comprehensive bipartisan legislation that fixes the solvency crisis. With those 3 steps, we will be delivering a thriving Social Security, not only to you, but to the generations that are coming after you, that are paying into the program, that are going to need the program, but then maintain that promise for the future generations, right? We got to keep this 88-year success story of a program going for as long as we can, because it's a moral imperative that we take care of each other in this country. If we're not able to work, we need to take care of each other. That's what FICA is for. You're paying into it, folks, right? You've paid into it your whole life. So you need to start to get engaged if you haven't been. Keep these conversations going with your families and your communities. Keep up the discussion with your lawmakers. Vote, right? For people who support Social Security and want to see it thriving and support bills and champion bills, vote properly and demand that Social Security become a campaign issue in every campaign, because it's your program, it's the people's program, and it's designed to take care of one another. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Jessica, that was great. Thank you so much. What a great call to action too for everybody. And that's perfect for the transition. I want to give a bit of space here for Alex Lawson from Social Security Works. Would you like to present a call to action and any closing remarks you've got?
Yeah, I mean, I co-sign everything that Jessica just laid out strongly. The push for a supplemental funding to SSA is novel and super powerful, because right now, rightly, there is an enormous amount of anger about overpayments, but on the Hill in DC, there's no solution to it. So it's just like, oh yeah, maybe they're going to like come after the agency with more cuts. If you put more money into the agency in a strategic manner aimed, then you can actually prevent those overpayments. And so it really does pay for itself. It is very similar to the IRS funding, where by giving more money to the IRS, they're able to do their job better, which it results in more money coming in and the catching of tax cheats. So this is a huge call to action, and we need to socialize it with members of Congress, and we need our champions to be talking about that. And we also, to just follow up, we obviously need to keep pushing for expanding Social Security. We have a decade to make the billionaires pay the same rate as the rest of us. And then really acutely, we need to just destroy any ability for a closed door Social Security death panel to be formed. And every member of Congress hearing about a commission as a poison pill right now is really helpful and useful. And I dropped a link in the chat. I'm going to put it in again, just a petition. But any contacts with electeds right now against the commission, and we have an organizational letter with over 100 organizations. We have congressional letters circulating right now. We've got a lot of muscle on this fight, but now is the time that we need to hit the gas, because the decisions are coming quite quickly.
And Jessica here has shared her screen with the flyer of some information about what Alex is talking about here. So thank you. I do see there's in the chat, there's a few questions. Somebody also put a question in the question function as well. And Lynn, we may not have time to get to your question today. Lynn, I believe I saw your contact information on there when you registered, so I can follow up and get you an answer to that question as well. But we just don't have the time right now to field that, even though it's a really good question. Let's do this here. Jessica, if you don't mind, I'll switch it over to Ross to make any closing remarks as well, and then you can provide some last closing remarks to end the meeting here.
Okay.
Ross, would you like to go ahead, please?
Thanks, Alex. First off, I want to thank both Jessica and Alex for spending this time with us and for the 50-some people that we've had on here. Again, as you've heard, it's so important for you, like we are at the Wisconsin Alliance, are reaching out to the politicians, to our congressional and to our senators. We need to let them know that this is our Social Security. We've been paying in it since, like Alex said, since we were kids. Our very first job, we paid into it. And what needs to happen is they need to lift that cap. If they lift that cap, everything else will fall into place. Social Security will be so funded that we won't have to worry about it in the next decade. It'll cover our grandkids. It'll cover our children. My children are getting to the age now, well, they're starting to look at Social Security. And I want to make sure that it's there for them. And the same goes with my grandkids and now my great grandkids. I want to make sure Social Security is there, and I think you do too. So join with us, reach out, and let your politicians know how you feel. And again, thank you everybody for being here. And Alex, thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, thank you all so much. Jessica, if you don't mind stopping your screen share here, and if you want to make a few closing remarks, then we'll end the call.
Yep. So the flyer that I put up on the screen is our call to action flyer to call your congressperson, again, 315-817-5437. And so the three asks are that Congress appropriates enough funds in the appropriations process to fund the access to the benefits that you are receiving or potentially will be receiving, to have Congress enact a bill approving supplemental funding over the next 10 years. I have a flyer on that I will be sharing with Alex, who can get it out to you all as well. And then support any solvency legislation and anything that's currently happening or that will be happening in the future to allow for the benefits to continue, because we're facing benefits are only 80% of benefits are going to be able to be paid out in the next 10 years, after 10 years, if we don't enact some comprehensive solvency legislation. So my closing remarks are, again, this is your program, and we encourage you all to join with us in the fight to maintain access to it and to keep it thriving for yourself and future generations. So thank you all for being here today and making a commitment to joining us in that fight in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jessica. And Alex Lawson and everybody, I'm giving you a little emoji round of applause here. Thank you all so much. Thank you to everybody who made it here today. What we'll do is I'll stay on the Zoom a little bit and get down these questions, make sure we can get that out. If you registered for this event, we'll send you an email with more follow-ups and links and ways you can help out. So thank you all so much, and everybody have a great day. And for those of us that are in Wisconsin, there's, I believe, another snowstorm coming on Friday. So be safe. Yeah, I know, right? Be safe, and thank you all so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Hey, Vito.